Hi, my name is Stan Van Gundy. I coached for 15 years in the National Basketball Association. The last 5 years I coached were here in Orlando as the head coach of the Orlando Magic. In the time that I was coaching, in the off season every year, I spent a lot of time trying to read and learn things that could help me do a better job in my coaching. And about 3 or 4 years ago, I ran into a book that meant more to me than probably anything else that I had read. It was by Dr. Carol Dweck, who is a professor of educational psychology at Stanford University. The name of the book is Mindset. And I read the book one summer, came back to it again the following off season, and it meant so much to me. I contacted Dr. Dweck and asked if she would be available to meet with me if I went out to Stanford. She graciously agreed to do that, and my wife and I went out and met with her at Stanford. In that meeting, she said a couple of things that really impressed me. First of all, at one point, I told her that I had a player on my team who was very athletic, a hard worker, a great young kid, but I said that he just couldn't learn all the things that we were trying to teach him in terms of our offense and defense, that he just wasn't smart enough. And what could I do? And I'll never forget, she looked me right in the eye and she said, "There's your problem right there. The problem's not with the player, the problem is with you. You've already decided that he can't learn. And I'm telling you right now, he can learn. You just haven't figured out how to best teach him." I went on to ask her, well, how do I do that? She said, it starts with talking to the player and finding out, really trying to determine how he learns best, trying different things. You have to be more creative. I had to find a way to reach this player. It was my responsibility, and it had to start with the fact that I had to truly believe that he was capable of learning. I had to change my mindset as a teacher, as a coach. And that was very profound to me. And it also took me to another level. Reading another book was given to me by Freddie Gonzalez, who's the manager of the Atlanta Braves baseball team. And the book was by a sports psychologist named Harvey Dorfman. It was called Coaching the Mental Game. And he said in the book, the most destructive thing in a coach-player relationship is when you label the player. Once you've said he's not smart or he's lazy or something like that, the player is going to tune out. That instead, what I should be doing is simply looking at the problem. Okay, this player needs to do this differently, or needs to work harder, or needs to pay more attention and focus more, or concentrate more, but without labeling the player. So it really all starts with my belief as a coach in the player's ability to succeed, and me taking responsibility for finding ways to teach that player and for that player to be able to succeed. One of the biggest things we do as coaches is develop confidence in our players. And I think a lot of times confidence is misunderstood. It's not merely giving somebody encouragement. When I was young, I really wanted to be a baseball player. Baseball was my favorite sport, and I simply could not hit the baseball at all. When I was 13 years old, I hit under 100. Now, I don't know how many of you are baseball fans, but under 100 is pretty bad. I mean, it puts you at the absolute bottom. And I actually had a coach who was very encouraging. He was always telling me, "Oh, you're a good hitter." Well, it was clear to me he didn't believe that, really. And I certainly didn't. When you're hitting under 100 and having no success, you're not going to have confidence. How do you build confidence? If I'm a coach, I've got to help the player get better. When the player gets better, he will succeed more often. When he succeeds more often, he will gain confidence. And again, it all starts with me first believing that he has the ability to do that. The second thing I would say in that regard that's really important, when you're coaching a team sport like I was, I needed everybody to succeed. It wasn't enough that one or two players had success and the rest didn't. I needed everyone to succeed for our team to reach the level that we wanted. And so I had to coach everybody. I had to be creative in finding ways to teach better and teach differently to different players and to bring out success in everyone. The second thing that I asked Dr. Dweck in my meeting out there is, I told her that one of the big criticisms of me as a coach, and probably justifiably so, is that I tended to be too negative. Anybody who had ever seen me coach yelling and screaming on the sidelines would probably agree with that I was too negative. And so I asked her, how much of my coaching should be praise and how much of it should be criticism? She looked at me and said, that's the wrong question. The question is, what should we praise and what should we criticize? And she cautioned me against praising people for results and for their, what most of us would call, natural abilities. For instance, she said that I shouldn't praise somebody for being a good shooter. Now, for most of us, that's counterintuitive. That sounds like that's great encouragement. Boy, you're a good shooter. You know, I have confidence in you. You can really shoot. She said the problem with that, even as praise is, now the player's self-esteem is based on his ability to make shots. When he goes through an inevitable slump and can't make shots, then he's saying, whoa, I'm not a good shooter. And the fact that he based his self-esteem on that leads to a lot of problems. I said, fine, what should I be praising? She said, be praising work and the desire to improve, the concentration, things like that, because they can always do those things. And so I started to say things to players like, wow, I really see you putting in extra time every day working on your shooting. When you work like that, good things will always happen. So that even when a player goes into a slump or is having a problem doing something, what they have to fall back on, what their self-esteem is based on, is their work ethic, their ability to accept challenges and overcome obstacles. Those things are going to be so key in what goes on. Dr. Dweck went on to tell me that the most important word we can use with anyone who is struggling, players or in your case, students, is the word yet. You know, you'll hear one of my players might say, I just can't make free throws. And Dr. Dweck would say, you always counter with yet. It's an ongoing process. Failure's never final. You can't do it now. That doesn't mean you can't do it. It simply needs more work. And finally, the essence of the growth mindset that Dr. Dweck talks about in her book is the ability to deal with failure. I dealt with professional athletes for 15 years. I don't care how good people are at what they do, and I coach the best players in the world. They're all going to fail at times. They're going to go through slumps. They're not going to do well. We used to tell our teams, even the real good teams that we had in Orlando, is we really don't know anything about our team yet. When we will learn about who we are and how good we are as a team is when we meet failure, when we hit a 3-game losing streak, when we start to be criticized in the media. Now we're going to know who we are, because the best people in any profession are going to meet challenges and obstacles that are going to be hard to overcome. And for a period of time, they will fail. How we deal with those failures will determine our ultimate success. And that's when we would know what kind of team we are. We wanted our confidence based on not our ability, but our confidence based on the fact that we would embrace challenges and we would work through tough times to get better. When you have that kind of confidence, temporary failures, a student failing a math test, a player missing 4 free throws in a row is nothing, because we know that we have the work ethic to overcome that. It starts with us as coaches understanding that, and then it filters down to our players, or in your case, our students. If we can teach them to deal with failure and not see failure as labeling them or defining them, but simply as temporary, then success will come.